It's a call to order, the Leominster Planning Board for October 3rd, 2016, 6:30. Okay, 6:30, we have a public preliminary subdivision, open public meeting for Brooks Pond Village. Okay? And we'll get started on that. We also have, in consecutive order, I'm gonna read them all within 3 minutes. A continued site plan, open public meeting for Brooks Pond Village, Lot 2E1. Continued site plan, open public meeting for Brooks Pond Village, Lot 4D1. Continued site plan, open public meeting for Brooks Pond Village, Lot 4E1. And site plan, oh, not that one. Okay, so those three will be open on consecutive minutes as they appear on the agenda.
So you open the preliminary in 3?
Yes.
2, okay. For the record, my name is Bill Manning of Manning Engineering with Pete Preventing, the developer. The first item is really the preliminary subdivision plan, which we had some comments come back from the various department heads. On the preliminary side of things, it was essentially not many comments related to the preliminary plan, more comments related to the construction that would occur. For example, from Conservation talked about that we would have to file a notice of intent with them, which we acknowledge. They also wanted us to work on the existing drainage infrastructure, which we've commenced that review to bring the system in compliance. The building inspector issued a comment about the site and its some areas that have some storage of materials on it, and piles and loam piles and rock piles and stuff like that. So most of the earth products are stored down here. There's some back in this area here. There's some of the piles of gypsum and some asphalt and stuff like that. That's in the process of being removed from the site. The materials relative to earth materials will be used during the construction and be eventually spread out through the site, loam, etc. And if any excess material at the end of the construction of the full build out obviously will be removed from the site, but somewhere else. So the preliminary really is the purpose of that, as we talked about at the last meeting, was to basically create the ability to have 3 financeable lots independent of each other, mainly because the banks aren't financing huge projects, and they consider this one, because of dollar value getting up there in size. So this would be financed as what's known as an end loan. This process would be financed as a construction loan by one bank, and this would be construction loan potentially by another bank, or at least they would at least have 2 different loans on that. So that's really the purpose of the preliminary plan. As we discussed at the last meeting, we are going to be likely seeking some waivers as the road is already built. Small things I think will be adjusted or adjustable. The width of the road I think is 30 feet or 32 feet, and the subdivision requires 34. For example, when we're coming down at the end of the cul-de-sac, we're doing a T-turnaround at that location, so the construction of the cul-de-sac will be different, but it's not intended to provide a dead-end street. It's intended to create the frontages. And at the entrance here, the driveway would continue, so there wouldn't be any impediment for traffic to go there. We're providing a turnaround, which is shown more in the site plan, for the purpose of vehicles that come down that are taking a wrong turn. They have a place to turn around and back out or go out without having to travel through the entire product to get out. There's one comment about emergency vehicles in the DPW's comments, and we met with them today, and it's the intention that if an emergency vehicle goes down, they're probably going to one of the buildings here, that they wouldn't need to stop and turn around here, but they could if they had to. So the preliminary plan comments are the first letter on top. The second part of the second letter is relative to the proposed construction of 2 apartment buildings on Lot 2E. housing 60 units. We went through that at the last meeting. Sufficient parking, some garage space as well. So that a lot of these comments that because they're 3 separate filings relative to these 3 separate sites we're trying to create are repetitive. So I'll hit each one, and if it's not repetitive, I'll just move on to the next one. One of the things that a layer in the CAD is turned off relative to the floodplain, so the floodplain information will be added to the plans. There is a requirement for 4:1 INR removal, and we met with the DPW and engineering today to go over their comments specifically, and that we basically were saying that we acknowledge and agree to provide 4:1 inflow filtration remediation subject to the review of the previous INR remediation provided for the project. When we did the INR removal for the whole flow of Brooks Pond, my recollection, and John Roker recalled the same, was that the amount of flow that we did for the 4:1 was well in excess of what we would have been required to do for 4:1 for the original project. So adding these 60 units, we'll figure out what that number is. And it might be that the INI that we've provided in the previous construction may already cover that, so we'd have credit for that available. And if that's the case, then we're all set. If not, then we'll have to do some additional work for that, so that's been agreeable. Sewer pump station is a size to handle additional flows, and once again, as we discussed today with DPW and engineering, it's acknowledged that existing pump station has sufficient capacity for the additional sewer flows proposed. The system was designed based upon Title V flows, which are usually double normal domestic flows, so the system really has some capacity. In addition to that, it has peaking factors that are designed into the municipal systems that make it even more so. So it's got a lot of capacity in it for this flow and more. Is subject to current stormwater regulations, requires stormwater permit. Our response to this project would fall in the jurisdiction of the Wetland Protection Act and stormwater regulations. A filing with the Conservation Commission is forthcoming, and its subsequent issuance of the order of conditions would exempt the project from local stormwater permit. The way the stormwater ordinance is written out is that if you have a order of conditions for conservation, then you're exempt from the city ordinance. If you're outside the buffer zone, then you have to basically file with the city for that ordinance.
That's conservation anyway. So.
Yes. Yep. The original NEPA filing was filed for the entire project. New project proposed an increase in number of reviews of more than 10%. Therefore, this project requires a notice of project change per 301 CMR 10. I'm sorry, CMR 11-10-6. As discussed in our meeting with the DPW engineering today, the new filing was for land greater than 25 acres disturbed, land greater than 10 acres impervious, and wastewater half a mile more of new sewer mains. To trigger a notice of project change, an increase in these specific categories of greater than 10% would need to be experienced. It is noted in the submittal letter for the project, since the amount of impervious area, amount of disturbed area proposed is essentially the same, and the increase in linear footage of the sewer main does not exceed 10%, and not a notice of project change would not be required. In other words, the elements that we will look at in NEPA, even though we review a broad scope of subjects in the NEPA review, it's the triggering elements under NEPA that we would have the 10% increase in order to be required to file. Another case would be is if we did something that all of a sudden triggered another category within NEPA, which we're not doing. So there's no requirement for us to revisit the NEPA process. Total amount of impervious area on Lot 2E. He asked the same question for all 3, and in our meeting today, what he was trying to assess was how much impervious area we had in the project relative to what was approved by NEPA. Under the NEPA project, including the commercial pieces up front, we were allowed 18 acres, and right now, including the project up front, based upon the calculations that we've done, we're at 16.3. So we're still well below the NEPA approval, if you will. So that was how that was, or that was what that question was regarding. We talked a little bit about the T turnaround, and we also talked about that at the meeting today. My understanding was that they were fine with that at that point once we explained it to them. He had a question about the existing sidewalk that is in this area right in here where the drive was going to be, and there is actually a crosswalk already on the site right there, so that from the ramp section down to where it intersects the proposed driveway will be removed, and that will allow pedestrian movements to come across the street right there and continue back down, or if they're coming the other way up to the street. With additional labeling of driveway widths and parking spaces to be added to the plans, that will be added. And he once again makes a comment about the stormwater management under the local ordinance, where I state that it's under, it's what being fined will be handled under the Conservation Commission program or order of conditions.
Right.
Detail sheet indicates stormwater quality unit, which will be sized according to, and actually it already has been sized according to DP stormwater regulations. And then he asked about the recharge volume calculations provided to show DEP compliance, and that information is going to be provided as part of our conservation filing. Okay, and that's really only for, those comments really are only for this product right here. Okay. The building inspector makes the same comment for all 4 submittals, preliminary as well as the 3 site plans, talking about the existing site should be cleaned before the project starts and before approval of the definitive plan. Developer has met with the building commissioner and has agreed to reorganize materials on site. On this lot, the materials in that area consist of gravel and earth burrow, stone tailings and loam. As the main part of the site gets constructed, these materials will be utilized for the site grading, utility installation, and landscaping. Upon completion of the construction on the project, any excess materials will be removed from the site. That's his comment basically for the 3 site plans on this. And each, our response is a little bit different when we start getting back into this one here. Conservation basically says we have to file a notice of intent, and that they want us to work with on the existing drainage system to inspect it and bring it into compliance. So we've agreed to that, and we are going to be filing a notice of intent. The fire department provided no comments. The police department provided a comment about the parking spaces, that he wanted to be sure that the handicap spaces met the state requirements in the ones that we're proposing at the point 2. So those were confirmed, and we will add that data to the plan. So the next one is talked about, and now we're moving on to the lot 4D1. The comments from DPW, comment number 1 and number 2 are the same as previous regarding the flood zone and the proposed sewer easements. Comment 3, easement agreements, reciprocal access easements need to be set up between this lot and lot 4E1. The overall site is considered, our response to the overall site is considered one product. As such, formal reciprocal easement is not necessary. This will be addressed within the deeds of each parcel created for various cross easement rights for a fully functioning project. So when the lawyers start writing the deeds for these projects, as they're doing the closing documents for the financing, they'll have all the cross easements referenced in there relative to basically that all parties have the right to pass for utilities, etc., as part of the verbiage within the deeds versus the actual plan for it, where it is going to be all one project under the same ownership. Distinguish between what proposed and what was constructed, and he acknowledged that he had not seen this plan, which was previously submitted, so that satisfied his concern. He talks about MEPR again, which we already discussed. He talked about the impervious area, which we already discussed. Board of Health had no comments. Building inspector had the same comment regarding the site being cleaned up, and the developer has met with the building and commissioner agreed to reorganize the materials on site. Some of these materials in the back here, we're now talking, were originally slated for recycling, asphalt, gypsum, etc. And they were removed from the cited part of the work. Other items that pertain to construction will be placed in an organized area for the remainder of the project. Items that were previously stored in trailers will be housed in garages currently under construction in the areas of building 5 and 7. This is 5 and 7 right here. Right now there's 3 garages that are planning to be built with the interior walls being held off before they finalize them. But now he'll be able to, instead of having trailers on site, be able to store the materials he needs for the construction, and really more so the interior fit up of the building than those. So that will help take some of that burden away. Conservation Commission, same comment regarding an order of conditions and notice of intent. and the inspection and cleaning of the maintenance of the drainage system. Fire department, no comments. Police department, once again, a comment regarding the handicap accessibility of the parking spaces. Comments on 4E are all the same, if I'm not mistaken, as 4D1. Okay. So those are the comments. A few things that we wanted to point out as we met with Kristen in DPW today. There was comments last meeting about the different bays, buildings over here that are proposed. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. This is an update of the plan that we prepared to help clarify what exists and what was proposed and what was approved. So as stated before, the browner buildings are already have been approved and constructed. The green color buildings have been approved but have not been constructed. Presently, this building here is under construction. I believe there's another garage, or 2 garages, or 3 garages under construction. 3. So these 3 garage buildings are under construction. Over here, we had these as, they were approved as garages, but we were converting them, if you remember correctly, into single units with a garage bay. So we're going to have 4 units here and 3 units here. As Mr. Lavenzi was looking at this area up on the site, he felt it was too tight. There is a proposed and partially constructed walking trail that's going to go around the site. So we decided to remove that building completely from it and to just make this building a garage bay for that area of the site. What we're going to do instead is in the community building right here. The community building, as it was sized in the original project, is much bigger than it needs to be. It was probably around 5,000 square feet footprint. So that's a big building. So what he's going to do is take the 4 units that were placed here and build those 4 units within that building, a single building with 4 units. And there'll still be a community room there, and there'll also be another community type area associated with the pool up here, which is part of one of the 2009 approvals that we already did.
But isn't that part of the whole thing, that you had a community building where you could have events and stuff like that within the group, within that area?
Yeah, like I said, there's several of them already. There's one across the street, and there's some other community areas, and what we're going to do is focus it in on the more of the center of the site. That's all. The walking trail, I was walking it, and I realized that, like, if you walk behind the garage, it's still pretty private. But if there's a unit there, even though the footprint is exactly the same, now you're walking directly behind somebody's unit. And I just thought it was going to not be private enough. So I thought, even though the footprint was the same. Then the other thing was that the trees have already been cleared there. I didn't really want to get any closer to the houses there. And all in all, I just wasn't happy with it. So I decided to eliminate one of the buildings and just return the other one back to the garage that it originally was. Again, to sort of back up a little bit, some of the garages that are on the peripheral are not readily marketable. People don't want to walk that distance to get to the garage. So even though we thought it was a good idea, we learned over the years that the peripheral ones were not.
Well, I took a ride around the other day, and there's one on that top left-hand corner. Up in there someplace,
Yeah.
is being worked on. Is that
Yeah.
it?
There's one that's turning, it looks like it's gonna be a unit, right?
Yeah, I didn't realize, I just saw it being worked on. I didn't pay attention really to what
So
it
what that
was.
is that in the original plan, that was a unit.
Oh, okay.
And in our mind, it was gonna be the maintenance guy's house.
Oh, okay.
And so we were building, we had hundreds of units, we never really got to it. And then we still just haven't finished it. But that's part of the original, if you go back to the original group plan, that's a unit. In fact,
But-
sewers in there, the water's in there, everything.
Yeah, I just happened to be driving around, and
Yeah,
I said, oh, what's
I
going
never
on? And I
finished
don't
it.
remember, talking about that, so I said, oh, well.
yeah, the other thing is that, and we'll probably put a note to this, is that this whole thing about, some of the neighbors, looking into the site, seeing things that are not really residential. There are some components, for example, we do use loaders to do plowing, and backhoes to do different things, and mowers that are really large, because it's a pretty large site. So we just recently decided to, in that area, make a couple of the garage doors bigger, and so we could put the snow removal equipment indoors. It has a practical thing because it can be heated, and the salt and everything is not gonna get frozen every night.
Right.
And in that area of the site, we are abutting railroad tracks and an industrial property. So we decided that down in there, we're gonna sort of put the more, the larger equipment
Equipment.
pieces and stuff, and we're gonna house them inside. And it's like right next to the pump station for the thing. So that, and really, I walked the site again with the building inspector the other day. And he understands. I told him that, we get it to his liking before we pull any more building permits in phase 1 or 2 or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And, so he agreed with that. And then we, again, there was a pile of like asphalt chunks and things. We were saving them up for recycling. And then we're gonna bring them all. So we're just gonna get rid of all of them. To us, they don't really amount to much, but some people were irritated by the aesthetic. But, there's some pipes that were necessary during the drainage, but almost all that work is done anyways. There's very little left, and so we're gonna get it all out of it.
Yeah.
And, so, it's pretty much, interestingly the same. There's not much different between these plans. And,
Yeah, I'm not concerned about it, I just saw it,
Yeah.
and we hadn't discussed it, and I said, looked like another
Yeah, and it's practical.
one, yeah.
But if you go back to the original plan, you'll see that, like, for example, there's a provision for the site manager to have an apartment in the office. Still have it, we still intend to do it, but we haven't done it yet. And the manager just lives in a regular apartment. And there is a need for developments of this site to have people on the property for emergencies, and it just manages easier if the maintenance person, middle of the night, lives there. You can just walk over to a unit if they have a problem. So we try to have at least one maintenance person living on the property, one management person living on the property. And we do the same thing at Liberty Place. It works better. So we had those provisions in the original plan, and then the only reason for the change is that there were a few garages that originally had units, and if we hadn't had difficulty renting the garages that were on the peripheral, we wouldn't have thought of doing this.
Yeah.
But the only reason was is that, so now if you have a unit, the person's gonna use one of those garages, so it eliminates a couple of garages, you end up with them using a couple of garages in that peripheral area. And actually, it's very private and they like it. So we think that that's a positive. It's just that as I sort of, the reason I chose the locations is that they were peripheral. But then when I looked at this one location after I laid it out, when I actually saw the walking trail is almost finished, very little left to build on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that, you're gonna have to walk like 3 feet of the back door of the unit. So the person living there is gonna be not feeling private, and then no one's gonna really wanna walk along the trail. Right now, you can get lost on the trail, you don't even know there's sections of it that are,
Mm.
could be in the woods somewhere, you know, really, and it really is kind of neat. So the other thing, the neighbors, the houses, there's a, another issue that I lost track of. Nobody's complained about it, but if you put your finger like down by those 2 extra garages that we're actually building now, Bill?
Right,
Is it right there? Okay, so those houses that abut the development there are way higher than the site. They're like,
oh, yeah,
the elevation is way up. Therefore, that elevation difference affords a certain level of privacy on the trail. But when you get down to where those were, that's where the connection is for emergency egress.
right,
That is on grade, so it just became not a good idea. I didn't really want to cut those trees down. Even if I didn't want a garage building there, I decided. So I just thought it would be better to leave it exactly where it is, do not cut anymore, finish the trail in that area, and then the community building, I had left it, but it was gonna be, I couldn't make it that big and use it, so I thought
Yeah.
that'd be a good spot for it. And then, again, it's interesting how the whole thing pieces together, but, there will be separate mortgages on separate phases, and there'll be separate banks. For example, Citizens Bank has the mortgage on phase, what I'll call phase 1. And that's an end mortgage, it's a fixed rate mortgage, and it's set up for 10 million years. The next bank will be a construction lender, but they kind of want their project to stand on its own, even though it is owned by the same person, same entity. So that's why we're making sure that we're compliant with density, setback, every component as it relates to the individual phase, as well as the collective, you know. So I appreciate Bill went through a lot of hair pulling out, trying to make sure that every single component was in compliance, as well as, and if they all were, they'd all be in compliance. But so you could have a site where you could put X amount of units and it would be fit the density requirement, but one site might not, and the other one might have extra density. So we had to position the lot lines and setbacks at the same time, make sure that they, but like I mentioned on the access road, so we're asking for it to be a private way, but an accepted way, in terms of, or not approved way, not accepted. So physically, nothing is different about the road. Nothing's changed. We built it really to the highway standards. It's binder and the design is the same as it would have been. But by making it a way, it now provides frontage to the 2 buildings on the left, so that they can be, for mortgage purposes only, separated. Interestingly, I'm sort of beating a dead horse, and I apologize, but just in my thought process when I first started, I thought that the front would be commercial, and so wouldn't the access road would end up commercial, and there would be these commercial buildings that would be out front. And after I got the thing sort of laid out, I realized that was not a good idea. So what I decided to do, and I'll tell you how I ended up deciding when I thought it was a good idea, was because when we were dealing with the highway component, they wanted me to limit curb cuts. So I needed to have the commercial people go out onto Brooks Pond Road and everybody come out as much as possible. It didn't have to be 100%, but to try to, I don't know if you remember when it was A&D Tire, there was a one continuous curb cut. It was just, the whole thing was like curb. It's the same way now at 40s. Just one massive curb cut. And in the old days, that was okay. But nobody wants that, and we don't want that. We want really landscaping, and we want a road, and so people can see what's going on. Nobody backs out onto, a busy road. But in the end, I decided, and that's why I went back. I changed the zoning line back to the original zoning line. It was because I did not want to start putting commercial buildings down originally, the impervious and the things that we had from the MEPA filing in terms of traffic, that were actually more intense if it was commercial. So if there was more commercial, it was gonna be more impact. So when we, you know, and the other thing Bill sort of skipped to is, because it's not really relevant, but I'll point it out, but the original filing was for 380 units, I think.
Well, the traffic study was done for 375 units.
375.
Yeah.
So we never really even built what the real,
Plus the commercial.
plus the commercial. So we ended up, you know, only at the phase that we did was like 330. So we're not even increasing the number of units by that, by 10%. And then we're eliminating a tremendous amount of commercial real estate in the process of doing what we're doing. So just tweaking it, getting it so that we can get a construction loan and an end loan. We're not changing the road. We're not really changing much, I mean, the way it was
Okay.
approved.
Sandra, I got a question. I'm looking at it and I look at the drawings and it says, that big circle in the middle,
Yeah,
restricted area, what is that?
another great question.
Another long story.
I'm sure, yeah, don't make it too long, Peter.
Well, all it is that back in the day, there used to be a cranberry bog there.
Okay.
And then years like in the 1950s, the owners of the property gravelled the entire site, sold all the gravel. So what used to be the lowest point in the site became the highest point on the site. So it doesn't really get any water, groundwater or anything to it, and it had been for years. But we restricted it, we did, as part of the thing, just that it's not a wetland or anything, but we decided you can't, it's kind of a nice little area if you walk in there. He was growing like high bush blueberries for a period of time, and they're still in there. And there's, you know, there's a lot of peat and stuff, but it's decomposed. And, you know, it's a nice little private area, and people go walking in there, and
Okay.
it provides,
It just, you probably want to relabel it rather than restricted area to open space,
well, it's a, yeah, it's a-
walking area
it's a
or
nice-
something, you
it's
know?
part of the-
Sounds
well,
contaminated.
no, it's not, it's
Well-
actually fairly nice. If when we go out for the walk, if you wanna walk the trail sort of goes out in there, and there's a couple of benches in there.
That's what I gathered, but I just,
Yeah.
The reason I came up with the name restricted area was because what happened when he first started working on the site, there was an enforcement order from the commission that said you were working within 100 foot of wetlands. And without there, it wasn't wetlands. And Army Corps got involved, and Peter self-imposed a restriction on himself.
Yeah, I didn't care about it. Army Corps didn't
Yeah.
really, they wanted me to do a study, and I said, I don't really wanna do it. I said, like, I really don't care. And so we made a decision that we could just not deal with it. That was,
Okay.
it's really,
Self-imposed restriction.
yeah, it's a nice
self-imposed.
area.
Okay, I just saw it.
Yep.
I asked the
Good
question. Okay,
And then that
It's
area,
open space.
near the pool area, we end up planting a lot of plants, and occasionally we go out there and.
So I want to, I was trying to get all these changes done today, and one of them that I did neglect to put on there was the back of the building in this area here.
Yeah, and
That
that's
was,
part,
that's
on the
part of
old
the, it's part of
plan.
the original plan. We had taken it off, but we're gonna add that back on. That's what we're talking about, putting some garage, making that actually garages, because the front piece, I believe, is where the apartment is, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanna point that out. I know it's not on the plans that we have, but when we get the, what we talked about today with DPW and engineering and with Kristen is to basically try to get this wrapped up tonight with the, one of the conditions being that all these changes that we made would end up showing up on a final set of plans that DPW would do a review and say, okay, yeah, we're all set with them.
okay.
So that, along with the preliminary plan being approved, so we can move on to definitive and get the definitive submitted.
That's fine.
I just have one question. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
I didn't know if you were done, but it just has to do with the building inspector's comments. So, on lot 2E1, you're going to reorganize, you've agreed to reorganize the materials on the site, which consists of gravel, earth, stone, and loam. And those are going to be utilized for site grading, utility installation, and landscaping, and then all the excess will be removed. And so the difference with 4D1 is
And
that
4E1.
And for E1, right, is that that material consists of asphalt and gypsum and other things
Right.
for recycling and will be removed, but, so it says then there's other items that pertain to construction that will be placed in an organized, I guess, what are the other items?
If there's, there's some pipe out there, there's some construction materials, maybe manhole cover and stuff like that, all that's gonna be brought over, into these garage areas and organized over in that area there.
Okay,
Like
Okay.
there's these huge, like a bank of construction trailers.
Yeah,
And inside those construction trailers are everything from brackets to pipe insulation, to all different components you use in construction.
Mhm.
And there's occasionally vandalized, someone ripped the door off one, and, the material's not all that valuable, but I don't wanna throw it away, and it's not like, so.
Peter, would you consider putting that on the back, way on the backside of the railroad tracks?
No, what I'm doing
away
is,
from
I'm getting,
the,
I'm just gonna put the material I'm saving, the recycled material I'm recycling, the
Yeah.
material I'm saving, I just said, let me build a garage, I'll just stick them in the garage.
Put it in the garage, okay.
And then I'll get rid of all the trailers. In fact, we put the trailers on Facebook Friday afternoon. Somebody said, I said, I don't know how to get rid of these things. And in less than 30 minutes, I had gotten rid of them all.
Oh, wow.
Like, people were lining up, responding. I said, $100 a trailer. I only had 4 trailers. At first, we were gonna do them for free. And then I said, no, let's put a number on them, because if we say free, they're gonna think we're cheap. He said, we just don't have any practical use for them anymore. And people are sick of looking at in their backyard at a trailer. And I don't blame them. So, I don't know if you remember, there was one at Stonegate. And so we dragged these from one construction site to another. And then it got dragged over to, like, in shock because we were gonna build the next phase of Brooks. I said, don't bring any more trailers, they'll go out of their minds here. Like, so like, we get rid of the trailers, we'll put the construction material inside garages. The recycled material we'll send off to recycling. And then the other material, it's just, we'll clean it up, screen the loam, get rid of the riprap, use it on the embankments. Get the piles of trees that, are rotting, that were cut down and we think are valuable, like people are chopping them up to firewood or whatever we're gonna use them for. There's a certain pack rat mentality going on there that I said, you gotta stop doing this, so let's just stop bringing stuff in, get it organized. And you can see phase 2, it's totally different today. Like what we already did, we went in there and cleaned it out, we got rid of everything that was in that area, we seeded all of the trails, we finished off the sewer lines to the back of the houses. I was of the opinion that I didn't think anybody was gonna connect to these. Like, I haven't really been able to say my piece about the whole thing, and I know it's a public hearing, you don't wanna hear all these things, but I'm gonna touch upon it briefly. The sewage system that was supposed to be put in for Debbie Drive in that area was not even supposed to be started until the pump station was accepted by the city. That's number one. We still haven't had it accepted by the city. If you look at the condition, it wasn't even supposed to be started, number one. Number two, what we originally agreed to was to put it in behind the houses on Debbie Drive because their failed septic systems were leaching into our land. We had a vested interest in trying to correct their problem. Should there have been septic systems in the first place in a very developed area of the city, the reason there is that when that was developed, there was a moratorium, that's how many years ago, before we had the sewage treatment facility we have today. There was a moratorium, and to get around the moratorium, they built subdivisions with massive septic system layouts. So that had to be corrected anyways. So we agreed to do that. We agreed to that with the neighbors and the plan board. Then, all of a sudden, there was some remorse that the poor people on the other side of the street wouldn't be able to get access to fix their septic systems. So I agreed in a weak moment that if the city provided the materials, I would go out and put it down the middle of the way. It was obvious to me that that was in lieu of putting it in the back. Every single one of the houses on Debbie Drive has, like every other house in Leominster, a completed sewage system in the front of their house on the main way with laterals to all those houses. They then came back and said, oh no, we want them in the backyard because that's where our septic systems are. And it'll be much easier for us to just connect gravity-wise. We'd have to put a pump in, we'd have to redo our entire house, So I said, okay, I will do that. But I want to do it when I build the buildings that are in back of those houses, because I don't want to go back out there and then put a septic and a third line in, you know? So a lot of time went by, and so I finally, the ward councilor was upset, that I hadn't done it yet. I had done it. I put the sewer line in for the entire subdivision before, and I wasn't even supposed to put the sewer line in for the houses to the left, because it was doubtful that I could gravity sewer them when the left as you face out of the emergency access way. But there was a couple of people, their systems had failed, like really failed. So I did some extraordinary things with the engineer, and we figured out how to change some of the grades, and we figured out how to get those houses onto the sewage system by gravity. So, I've been doing all these different things. It was at one point, supposedly we were creating odors, from the sewage system, and the Board of Health got in. Turned out somebody went and installed a bathroom in their house without a vent, without a plumber, without a plumbing permit. And so what they did was they opened up a line directly into the sewage system, and when the sewer pump at Brooks Pond would come on, it delivers a phenomenal amount of sewage quickly into the line. And those vents are required, because if the void doesn't go back to my sewage pump, it goes out into the system. So it was pumping it into their house. So we've been working with the neighbors, and so now the people on that side of Devon Drive have a sewage system in the front of their house, they have a sewage system in the back of their house. They can go every way that they want, and none of them, except one, has connected to the sewage system. This is just belt and suspenders, because they'd rather stay on their septic system until such time as maybe they sell their house and they can't get a Title V inspection, or they the system fails. But in the interim, it's cheaper to stay off the system. So I vented a little there. I mean, I've done a lot of different things. I was supposed to be a participant in the lights that ended up at Willard Street. My participation turned out to be 100%. None of the other developers kicked in any money. And I have a letter from the planning office, it's ancient, saying that they will collect the money from the other developments, one of them being the Walmart. I don't know, last I checked, they were pretty wealthy. And they never contributed 1 red cent that they agreed to and was required for that
Walmart
light.
wasn't supposed to contribute, they were supposed to contribute to the engineering,
Yes,
and the state,
and I paid for it.
You paid for the engineering?
$75,000 I paid for it. So I'm waiting for a $45,000 reimbursement. So I mean, I've kept silent, and I'm not trying to.
why don't we take this offline, okay?
Yeah.
I'd like to have, because all the people had agreed to that, and this is the first time I heard, because Kate never said a word to me.
No, it was even before Kate, I mean, this is.
Well, no, I realize that, okay?
And I'm only saying.
And we've
that-
asked to follow through. No, I agree with you, Peter, but when you follow through and you do something, and now these same people are coming back for developments, and now I'm finding out that nobody came back to us and said those people did not pay their fair share. Because that's when somebody makes an agreement,
Yeah,
okay, I want them to follow through. And some time ago, I had asked Kate that, a couple of years ago,
yeah,
and said, how did that ever work out? And she said, oh, gee, I don't know, let me look into it. Well, just like everything else, for some reason, it fell through the cracks. But offline,
yeah.
I'm serious about this. I'd like to get together with you and I and Chris, and we take, and let's look at this, and let's go after these guys. Because they owe you the money,
Yeah.
and,
Well, they owe the city though.
well, they owe,
Well, they-
wherever.
What happened is, just so you know what the sequence of events was, is that there was a grant to build
Yeah.
the lights, but the engineering had to be done. And so I was asked by the planning board staff and the mayor if I would just contribute everything, and then they would go back and collect it, because if we didn't get it done, they wouldn't have gotten the grant, they couldn't have built the lights.
Right.
So I said, all right. But so anyways, why am I even mentioning this? Is that you know, I think I'm the only guy who's doing off-site. Like, I did all the sidewalks on Central Street, I did the walls on Central Street, I did the engineering for the lights at Willard and Central Street, I did, the I&I study stuff, I did like 10 to 1. So I've been trying to do all these different things, and so I get a little pushback, like I didn't do this particular component on the sewer. Well, now they have more sewer connections, but if you look and you look at the condition on the thing, it clearly states that I'm not even required to do it until it becomes a public system. And there's a reason for that. DEP doesn't want the city to be putting sewage into a private entity. So they've had problems in the past, so they wanted me, they wanted it done, that sequence of events. So what would happen is that somebody would have a failed septic system up there, and there's serious failures, like above ground sewage. And so they would come to me, the city, and I would say, all right, we'll connect them, you know, because it's an emergency. And this last time, I said, look, I'll put all these lines in, and I had the blasting prices alone were ridiculous. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars in blasting. It was just like backbreaking at the end. But I did it, and
Okay, I'd
I
like to
want
wrap
to
it
get them
up
to
at the end.
accept it first.
No, I appreciate it, and I want to sit down and discuss it, you and I, and I'll follow through, because I wish I had known some of that stuff, because if I don't know those things, then I can't go back to these people and say, hey, you got this, you got that, you didn't use this, and if those messages don't get
Yeah.
followed through to
Well, I have
us,
the letter.
we don't know.
Do you have the letter in the file? You must have.
There's a lot in the file.
There's
We
a
can
lot.
go,
I'll
yeah, we
get
can
you
get
my
into
file.
it, yeah. We'll find
I'll
it.
get you my file. It's
Look,
got most of
all
it.
right.
Yeah, anything else?
That's it.
Nothing.
I want to open it up to the floor. Do I have any other discussion from anyone on the floor? I'll ask one more time. Do I have any discussion from anyone else on the floor? Any board members have any questions? No, I think it looks like you've done a lot of work. You've made a lot of changes. I see it moving along, so I appreciate that. And I drive through there and I check things out on periodically. I've run into you when I've been out there, and I think everybody I've talked to that's in there enjoys it. Wants to know when I'm going to move in, and I said, I still like puttering around in the yard.
Yeah.
There's a community garden there.
Oh, okay.
Very active, actually.
Okay.
Right.
So closing, we have to do it individually.
We have to do it individually.
Yeah, Fred,
Make a motion to close the first one, the preliminary subdivision open public meeting.
second.
Motion made and second to close the preliminary subdivision open meeting for Brooks Pond Village. Any discussion? Here none, the call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both say no. Motion carried. Mike, your turn.
Make a motion to close the continued site plan, open public meeting for Brooks Pond, lot 2E1.
Second.
Motion made and second to close site plan open public meeting Brooks Pond Village, lot 2E1. Any discussion? Here none, call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carried.
I move to close site plan open meeting for lot 4D1.
Second.
Motion made and second to close continued site plan open public meeting for Brooks Pond Village, lot 4D1. Any discussion? Here none, call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both say no. Motion carried. Patrick?
Make a motion to close the public hearing for continued site plan, lot 4E1.
Motion made second for continued site plan open public meeting for Brooks Pond Village, lot 4E1. Any further discussion? Here none, call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both say no. Motion carries.
John, you should be an auctioneer.
All right, very good.
Okay.
People would bid on things just to get them to stop.
Please, please.
Please, please. My wife says you talk too much already. What? Site plan, open public meeting for 200-210 New Lancaster Road.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Patrick McCarty, McCarty Engineering. here tonight to present a site plan approval application for 2 new buildings on New Lancaster Road, which is the
No, you didn't.
restaurant pad site. It's in front of the Lowe's.
Thank you.
Get it wrong.
So I have to,
Speaking of the
yeah,
double.
perfect.
Don't forget your lights
Yeah,
Wait.
everyone's good. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
So, again, for the record, Patrick McCarty, McCarty Engineering. We have a site plan before you this evening for the development of the vacant pad site in front of the Lowe's. Just to orient everybody, this is New Lancaster Road, Route 117 at the top of the page. This is the existing boulevard access driveway to Lowe's. On the right-hand side of the page is Texas Roadhouse, and on the left-hand side of the page would be the driveway to the transfer station. So we have out parcel A, which is a 55,000 square foot parcel that was created as part of the whole Lowe's Walmart development. It was made pad ready at that time, so it was cleared, graded, utility stubbins were done, so water, sewer, gas, electric are all on site. The drainage is also constructed, it comes across the Lowe's driveway and ties into the, I guess now famous detention basin on the other side of the Lowe's project. And,
The $1 million,
yeah.
multi-million
That's another
dollar.
story for another time. And so there was 2 curb cuts put onto the site, and so it's just been grass for all these years, and a number of different people have looked at it, from McDonald's to Wendy's and the like, and they now have executed lease for a new bank building, which would be 5,225 square foot bank branch, and for a coffee shop, drive-through coffee shop, Aroma Joe's. They're big in Maine and New Hampshire. This would be, I believe, their first Massachusetts location. There's probably about 50 locations through Maine and New Hampshire. They have a drive-up window here where you order, a second drive-up window where you pick up your food and or beverage, and then a walk-up window. There's actually no interior space. It's a small building, only 780 square feet. The bank would be on the left side, closest to the transfer station driveway. It's a 5,225 square foot retail bank branch, your typical counter service inside, a drive-up ATM, a drive-up bank teller, and a drive-through escape lane. So we've worked within the limits. This bold line here represents the limit of the out parcel A. This gray color represents the riprap slope, because there is a significant grade change between the site and the transfer station driveway.
Yeah.
So that's that armored slope that exists now. There's a sidewalk along 117 that comes into the site and connects to the crosswalk that leads you to Lowe's. And then there's some landscaping that was done at the time of the Lowe's project. Some of that, if you look at our landscape plan that's included in the set, some of that's going to remain, some of it's going to get ripped out because it's just, it's been beaten up by the salt in the New England winters. So we have one two-way in and out for the site. There was an existing curb cut here that we're narrowing down. An existing curb cut here, curb cut is off the parking lot, but that we're closing off completely. So this would be the in and the out of the site. There's two-way traffic with standard parking on either side. You'd come towards 117 and be able to go left or right. There's a row of 23 standard parking spaces facing 117. And then there'd be a one-way, 16-foot wide drive-through lane that you could either come to the ATM, come to the teller tube, or come to the escape lane and then back out. We have a dumpster for the bank building here on a concrete pad that's in a vinyl privacy fence enclosure, so it's not visible to the public. As far as the coffee shop, you come in, you could either come straight and park in one of these spaces, or you could take a right into the drive-through lane. That would be an 11-foot drive-through for your order and pickup, or an 11-foot escape lane in which you could loop back out. So all of the traffic for the site would use the existing traffic signal at the Lowe's driveway in 117. Both buildings meet all the setback requirements. The lot area required is only 5,000. We have 55,000. There's no impervious coverage in the commercial district requirement, but we have 61%. Frontage, we need 20, we have 230. Width, there is none, we have 258. Side yard, there is not one, we have 46 is the minimum that we provide. Rear yard, there's none, we're providing 52. The height is 60 feet in the commercial, we're only proposing about 25, because it's a gable end roof on the bank with shingles, and 5 stories, we only have 1 story. As far as parking, it's a mix of office and professional for the bank building and restaurant for the coffee shop, plus some for the drive-through. We're requiring a total of 21 spaces, but we have 69 total, 49 actually on the site, and then they're leasing spaces here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 on the Lowe's parking lot. It seems like a lot, but those are the requirements of the 2 tenants, primarily the bank. And so they've asked us, and asked the landlord, and he's negotiated a lease for those spaces. All of us I know that know the area know that section of the parking lot never sees any activity. Never sees any activity.
Yeah.
It does seem like an incredible amount of space.
It is an incredible amount of spaces.
For
It's,
what it is.
I mean, yeah, well, with the drive-through coffee shop, you probably only really need half of the number of
3?
spaces,
Yeah,
right?
right.
There's
Maybe
like 2
3 or 4.
employees and 1 person
Yeah.
who's pulling up. I don't know who's gonna pull up to the window, everyone's so lazy, they're gonna go through the drive-through, but
People from the bank.
I don't know. They could-
that's true, people from the bank will just walk over there.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
What kind of bank?
I can't say.
Can't say, okay.
It is, all I can say is it's familiar to Leominster.
Okay.
There's a
Okay.
location now in Leominster, and this would be a new location, but it's not a local bank per se. That can
Okay.
help you kind of reason it in a little bit. So I think you'd asked me what these look like, so this isn't the best picture, but this is an Aroma Joe's. Oh. So it's a gable end, it's, cement board siding and some trim, kind of New Englandy looking structure. This is a new one from Derry, New Hampshire that they just built.
Is that a typical layout for them?
Pennsylvania.
Not to
Oh,
have
yeah.
interior seating and whatnot?
Yeah, that's a typical layout for them.
Yep.
And then
They're like the old coffee huts. You used to see them
yeah,
periodically.
kind of like an
Yeah.
overgrown photomat.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, overgrown format, exactly.
That kind of thing.
All right, and then this is the bank. This is one that's in Merrimack, New Hampshire. That's similar. So it's split face block on the bottom, then brick, and then an ephes band with some different gables. I think the one in Leominster is actually going to have a complete gable roof, but this gives you an idea of the finishes. It's going to be an attractive building, not just a big box put there.
And you got plenty of snow storage.
Yeah, a ton of snow storage on the plan, which if Sal was here, he'd be happy to see that.
Yeah,
What about, what's the lighting like, and what are the hours of operation of the coffee shop, do you know? Do you have any idea?
I don't know that. I know Lowe's is open till 11, most nights 9 on Sundays, because I'm frequently running down there, so I would imagine similar hours to that, and Texas Roadhouse is, I wanna say 11
They're
as
open,
well.
until- yeah, a little later than that.
Maybe even later than that.
Okay, it's not going to be 24 hours, you don't think?
No. So we did, obviously this was sent out to the different department heads. Kristen sent these back to me on Friday and then the police this morning. So the building inspector neither approves nor disapproves, he just says the parking required is 21, which is what I calculated.
I don't mean to interrupt and go off on a tangent, but can either you or Kristen talk to the department heads? They either have to approve it or disapprove it and give the reasons. I don't know, like, for example, why is he neither approving it nor disapproving it
Yeah, doesn't make sense.
when
Yeah.
it's not, they don't need a special permit or variance? I just think it's cleaner for the record, and I would think the developer or the,
I think the only time I panic is if it says disapproves, and that's why I scramble and pick up the phone and
I
find
know,
out the
but
issue from-
I don't know why we even give that an option. It's either approved.
Well, if you don't disapprove, then I would just suggest that you
Then-
approve,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
I know, so
Shouldn't be an
let's
option.
just, make it a choice, don't make it one or the other. And if they're giving reasons why, if they're giving comments, then maybe we should change the form to say, approved with the following comments.
Right.
Or following conditions, or disapproves for the following reasons.
Mm.
So I just don't like,
Yeah, the.
You don't like the ambiguity.
well, people just
Oh.
need to make decisions in life. That's what I'm saying. So if they could change that, it's been irritating me
I
for 20
agree. I hope
years.
this board makes a favorable one tonight.
So anyway, I didn't mean,
Well, we're talking
While we're talking
all
about
right,
this.
so anyway, what was
We're not
his
sure
only
we're gonna
comment was
approve or
that it just
disapprove.
needed
So the
the
building
required.
inspector just did the math and came up with the same number of parking spaces that we did.
All right,
The health department says there's public utilities proposed, and it doesn't have any nearby residential properties, no issues. The fire department approves, no comments. Okay for permit, he goes to say. Marco Conservation neither approves nor disapproves a stormwater permit as described in section 6.1 of the City of Leominster Stormwater and Erosion Control Ordinance will be needed. That's true, this is different than what Mr. Hannigan is talking about, is this project doesn't have any Conservation Commission jurisdictional areas. So this one would trigger the permit, and we've already
Permit.
submitted that application to them. And then a construction general permit, so anytime you disturb more than an acre of land, you have to file for coverage under the EPA's construction general permit, and that's typically done 10 days prior to the start of construction. Because in that, you need to say who the operator of the site is, who the site contact is, who's responsible in the event of, significant erosion or anything like that. And typically, those things aren't known at this point in the permitting. It's not till the contract's awarded for the building and the site contractor. So that's 10 days prior to the start of construction is EPA's requirement.
Mhm.
So we agree with both of the conservations. And police, handicap parking is acceptable, no further commentary. So really no department head comments to address. We meet all the zoning requirements, we meet the parking requirements, we provided a landscaping plan and a lighting plan. The drainage is relatively straightforward because all the infrastructure is built, we just need, a little bit of grading and some catch basins on our site. All the utilities are stubbed onto the site already, with the exception of there was one sprinkler line and one domestic water line stubbed onto this site, but where there's two buildings, we need two domestics, and they won't let us use the sprinkler for domestic, so, Aroma Joe's will have to go out and tap the main for their domestic service. That's the only utility work required.
There's no place else on the.
The only other one, so Lowe's actually gets their water from the back,
Oh, okay,
and it comes up the hill. And then there's actually the 12-inch water main that we installed when we built the transfer station,
right,
but that's a different landowner that you'd have to go get an easement, and there's not necessarily a friendly
okay.
relationship, so we're going out to the street where the public water line is.
Okay.
I'm
okay.
sorry, did the Board of Health make comments?
Nope, they did, they said,
No comment.
public utilities at proposed location doesn't have nearby residential properties, no issues.
Okay.
So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
No, I'm open up to the audience. Oh, no audience.
No one is today.
Any
Yeah.
questions from the board?
No, looks good.
No, I don't have any questions.
I make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded to close the hearing
Excellent.
for the site plan open space public meeting, 200 and 210 Lancaster Road, Lancaster Road. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
And just to let you know, like I said before, what Peter was saying, I was a little dismayed because of all the New England development as well as the other people all agreed to pay their fair share of Willard Street. And when I thought everybody had done their share, and now I'm finding out years later that nothing had
I
happened.
know New England Development paid for all the lights at the other end of Willard Street, the widening, the shoulder work, that set of lights.
Yeah, that was all part of the,
So I
but
don't
the
know. I
one
didn't
on
know.
Route 12, the agreement was that there was a problem. The state said, yeah, they wanted to get it done, but they didn't have the money to do the engineering.
Mhm.
So New England Development said, we will take and do the engineering, we'll pay for the engineering, okay? And then there was some acquisition land that had to be acquired, and some other minor construction which was outside of what the state was gonna do. And Mr. Pavenzi, and I'd have to go back now. I don't wanna give names because I don't remember, I think I know, but I don't wanna make any mistakes. 3 other developers all agreed to pay for the acquisition costs. And then the state actually had the money, once that was done, the state had the money to do the
Sure.
actual intersection.
Yeah.
So that was the plan, and what happened to it, I don't know. I had thought that we had it all written, they had agreed, we had a meeting, and everybody said, yep, and it was all divided up according to the percentage of their development. Okay?
I don't know.
Well,
All the
I'm not
plans-
saying that Peter's lying, but you're only going by what he told you.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying, I'll check with, find out, that's why I'm not saying anything. I'm trying to say, and I'm trying to be cautious to find out. It has nothing to do with your property, okay? So I'm not gonna try to take that
Alright.
there. I
Great.
don't think that-
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great night.
Okay, call to order.
Patrick Perla.
Here.
Fred Fredericks.
Here.
Paul Weiser. Salvador Giacone. John Souza.
He's here.
Who's here?
Yeah.
Carolyn-
Sleeping, but
Carolyn Glorioso.
Here.
Thomas Kerrigan. Michael Mahan.
Okay, minutes of previous meetings. We have the minutes of
We have
August
the meetings
15th.
from August.
yeah,
Yeah, I do not have the meetings for
I
September.
looked at it and it looks good, so I make a motion to accept it.
Motion made and then second to
I wasn't
accept.
here, so.
Any discussion, addition, or deletions?
It was a great meeting, Carol.
Hearing none,
It's a good
so
one. Sorry, I missed
I
it.
think he's saying that.
I have a motion made.
That's what.
Pat seconded it.
I did.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both say no. Motion carries.
Okay.
Okay. Minutes for September 19th.
I will have those for next meeting.
Oh, okay.
I'm a little backed up, but just for the record, we did hire another clerk, so I'm hoping to have her on board for the next meeting, and then we'll get caught up.
Excellent.
Great.
Yeah.
So we'll move on.
Good job.
Okay.
Plan submitted, special permit for off-site parking and reduction in parking at 45 Summer Street. You have to schedule that.
Yes, this goes along with what we've determined that they need additional special permit for parking. So there's 2 issues. One is they are going to have some off-site parking. It is within 750 feet of the building. I think it's within 300 feet. So that's one. They need a special permit to allow that. And then the second part is that they're still not going to have exact the prescribed number of parking spaces. So Bill has a formula for showing what the parking spaces would be and how that could be allowed. But he would need another special permit for that. So we've put them together.
Okay.
So now this, because this sort of came up later, they're scheduled for this meeting on the 17th. I've added that to the schedule at 6:40 because we had to get the advertising out starting today. So if we can officially schedule it for that,
Okay.
if that
So
works.
that's what you say, 6:40?
For 6:40, yeah.
Okay. Motion would be in order for 6:40 on the 17th.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Site plan modification for 1290 Main Street.
Okay.
The deal here is that they evidently, when they came in, this is the old weather vane,
Yes.
and the discussion was that there was not gonna be a restaurant.
Right,
Right.
that's right.
Well-
It's gonna be a restaurant?
The first tenant is a restaurant.
Pizza.
The
Ridge.
It's a
Pizzeria.
pizza place,
Mhm.
okay?
A
So,
mom and pop or a chain?
it's
It's a
a,
chain.
the
I
chain.
forget the name of it, but it is a, it's not Bertucci's, but it's something.
Yeah, it's supposedly a
Sounds
higher end,
I don't-
nicer pizza.
Yeah,
So it is,
mostly
it-
takeout, but they do have, I wanna say 18 tables.
they're gonna have
So
some
there is
tables, so
seating in theory.
that changes the formula for the parking.
Yeah.
And there were a number of concerns of the people in the neighborhood of dumpsters at night and things like that. So, what they were informed were that they misrepresented the board, even though we didn't make it a condition. And we did have it on video. So therefore, they were notified that they had to come back in for a modification of the site plan for a
All
restaurant.
right, so what's the modification?
It's going to be allocate their parking places and make sure that everything is primarily with the parking.
Okay.
I wanna say that the dumpster location.
And dumpster
Okay,
location
okay,
and
good,
things
all
like
right.
that.
I'm
Yeah,
glad.
that was always that was a
Yeah.
big piece of.
Yeah, that was,
Remember that.
I think
okay.
it ended up
So-
against the fence between the people's yard.
And they're not considering this a minor modification, right? They have to, I mean, it's a site plan, but, so it's public information meeting.
Right.
They're not gonna just come in with a plan.
No,
Okay,
not supposed to.
right, okay, good.
So,
Okay.
we can schedule.
So that's the background. We're following through, and so that's why
So
it's
is
there.
that 1017?
Yes.
6:45.
Just for the record, I'm not gonna be here, so just in
Okay.
case
Okay.
we need any, if you need me,
Well, yeah, because, well, it's a special
I
permit for the
apologize.
off-site parking, so we're gonna need
Yeah, we'll
6.
have to make sure we have the other members there. Okay. So that'd be it'd be at the 17th on
6:45.
6:45. Okay, we got a motion by
I made the motion.
Fred, seconded by
Patrick.
Mike. Oh, Patrick, okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Continued site plan for Exchange Street. You see there's no one here. We have a letter.
I received a letter from Ken Oldfield today. Shall I read it?
Yes.
Okay, I have another copy if you want to take a look. It's from Ken, it's dated October 3rd, which is today, it's addressed to the Leominster Planning Department regarding a site plan on Exchange Street. Dear board members, on behalf of our clients, CRX LLC, this office would like to extend the decision for the above referenced site until December 15th, 2016. It is our hopes that the additional information requested can be provided to the board next week, and a subsequent devotion granted by the board at the next meeting in November. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact this office. Respectfully, Ken Oldfield.
Mr. read it to me
That's
twice
that's
today.
right there.
Is this it?
That's, yeah,
That's nice, Abe.
Okay,
In the
I
monument,
don't know what
To
he's
extend
doing
the
for there,
decision.
an
we're
honorary.
gonna have the voter. Do I bring the minister?
Yeah, that's what I think of when I hear.
So when-
Okay, the
when they
discussion on this. As I looked at it, and as I talked to Kristen, we closed the hearing. We should not have closed the hearing.
Right.
We cannot accept further information, and their drawings are totally incomplete on the site that they gave us. Further discussion with the unit out front, okay? I feel that there is no paperwork, and I'm not sure how to handle that. I would like to entertain a motion, okay, that we take and give them leave to withdraw without prejudice, okay? And that will waive the refiling fee, the filing fee. So therefore, we'll give them leave to withdraw, that we have to take action tonight. That takes care of us taking action tonight. And then they can come back and refile with complete documentation, and we won't charge them the filing fee. So
That's fine.
it
Basically,
would
we're
make,
just reopening.
Start over.
and that way we can reopen the hearing
Yeah.
Can
and
we
go
just
through the whole
reopen
thing.
it though?
What's that?
Can't we find a way to reopen it?
I think this is cleaner. I think this is to close it and then we're done, because there's so much to go on there. And I think it's cleaner. If anybody has a better idea, I'd like to entertain it, because I think we have a real situation over there, and we just can't let it go on the way it is. And The drawings that came in are incomplete. The drawings, the site plan that he had originally are totally inaccurate. There's not one building that's in the location they said it was gonna be in. We got cars pulling out onto the road where we made a specific requirement. There'd be no cars pulling out onto the road. When you use semantics, oh, they don't back out into the road, they pull out into the road because they back in. Well, I got a picture of them pulling in and backing out. So
You know,
I have
it's funny, I hadn't seen, I mean, my mother lives across the street. So I, you know, periodically look over there and most of the time I do see them backed in. But of course, you know, I was at my mother's house like 2 days later and, you know, they were pulled in. So that they would have to back out onto Exchange Street. You know,
It's, you know, it's nature. And so, and there's no way that the ADA has the right or the authority to go against city ordinances. You can't park on a sidewalk.
Yeah.
And that's as simple as that. That's a sidewalk they're parking on.
Yeah.
So that's, you can't do it. But I don't know how, you know,
Plus that.
I'm beside myself on how to handle this,
I
and
didn't see
I
that.
think the only way to handle it is to close it and put pressure on them to make some kind of correction to the site. And that's the only vehicle that we have, short of taking them to court. Okay, and I don't want to do that.
no, which I don't want to do.
No.
Okay?
Because it's not, what's going on there is not so awful that you have to get courts involved and everything
No,
like
it's
that.
not.
You know what I mean?
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, but we just want it to be done right.
Mhm.
You know, you got one developer who's doing all kinds of extra things, and then you get somebody who you can't get him to do the right, you know, just what he says on his drawing. You know,
So when are we gonna schedule that?
it's not to be scheduled. What we'll do is we'll give him leave.
Okay.
The motion will be leave to withdraw.
Okay.
That means that we basically in.
But if they refuse to do that, we should, don't you think we should schedule it for, under old business to vote? What if they say no?
They
Then
could have
we-
been here. They know that it's on the agenda for tonight.
All right, but what if they say, no, we're not gonna withdraw it? No, we're not gonna file a motion to withdraw. And they have until December 15th. Then we have to put it back on, we should put it back on. I mean, the only thing we can do tonight
But see,
is,
if I don't leave, I can't, we made the mistake of closing the hearing. And we really can't close the hearing because we don't have all the documentation.
Okay.
And just to say, hey, you gotta give the, so that's where I see, is that I personally can't, you know,
but what if for some reason they say, we're not gonna file a motion withdraw? Then we have to act upon it and we can deny it.
Well,
So then, but we need to put it on the agenda.
but see, we have to act on it either that or we deny it tonight.
Well, my suggestion is, they're asking until December 16th for us to take action on. They're extending it to, from October 15th or thereabouts to December 15th.
But Carol, my problem is the opening the hearing again.
No, I'm not opening the hearing, but don't we have to put on the event agenda to vote, though? If they say, no, we're not gonna file a motion, we're not gonna submit a motion to withdraw, which we have to act upon anyway. We have to act upon the motion to withdraw, because if they send a letter subsequent to this one, after Kristen calls them and says, okay, we file a motion to withdraw without prejudice, we have to allow it, because otherwise we can say, we can simply vote, no, we're not gonna accept your motion to withdraw, we're gonna act on it, we're gonna deny it, now you have to wait 2 years. So either way, I think we have to put it on, if not the next agenda, if not for October 17th, then at least for November, but we might as well put it on for October 17th, because that's beyond the 90 days anyway. And then if they've submitted their,
But we have to take action within 90 days.
but they're asking it for it to be extended to December
The
15th,
15th, well,
which is really our request, and they're assenting to it.
The 2-year period, if you deny it, is that what it is? It's just, it's not specific in the zoning ordinance, so, okay.
Gail has a comment, and I'm interested in what she has to say
Me too.
tonight.
Mhm.
No, I was just curious about the extension for making a decision. Does that only apply until you've closed the hearing? And can you actually extend the period from closing the hearing
We
to
have to make
taking a
an
vote?
action. See, that's, well, I mean, they've given us the letter to extend, so we can extend it.
What was
Because
this
they
for, site
requested
plan, Kristen?
Yeah. Under, let's see. Procedure for review. You go to page 97, Carol.
Oh, I don't have that.
So, within 90 days of the informational meeting, the planning board shall act on the application. So, the hearing opened on July 18th.
Site
I
plan,
think.
within 5 days of receipt, the planning board shall, within 65 days of submission, plan shall hold, okay. Within 90 days of the informational meeting, the planning board shall act on the application. And the informational meeting was,
It was opened on July
Yeah.
18th.
all right, worst case scenario, go by July 18th, because I'm wondering if you go on the last date, but we'll go on the first date. So,
Mhm.
July, August, September, October 18th, give or take a few days. So we
Yeah.
have to act upon it, and then but if we don't act upon it, it's deemed approved.
Approved.
So, I'm curious of what Gail has to say.
Well, I was thinking that perhaps you can see if they will go along with your leave to withdraw in the next 3 days, and if not, then have a special meeting, so you make your,
But I suppose we could do that, but we also have a letter from them
Request on the 15th.
extending it until December 15th.
but can you extend keeping the hearing open, but I don't know if you can extend once
that's
the
our
hearing is
discussion then.
closed to take a
No,
vote.
I don't know about that, because it says within 90 days of the informational meeting, and we'll go from the first day of the meeting, July 19th, the planning board shall act on the application. But now, they are basically assenting to us continuing it for an additional 60 days, which I've seen happen before. It's been
Yeah.
a while, but I've seen it happen.
But usually it's continued to keep the meeting open to receive information. I know it doesn't
No,
say that.
That's
but-
not my understanding, because it says within 90 days of the informational meeting, the planning board
Well-
shall act on the application, act on it. So I think
I was hoping they would be here tonight.
if it's
If they were
closed,
here tonight, then I would have asked them, and then they can answer, but they're not here tonight, so I can't ask them.
so, but every time, see, I also think, every time a meeting is continued, and and the applicant doesn't oppose that, then I think the 90 days
Continue.
triggers again, it starts again. So I actually think we don't even need this letter, that it goes from whatever the last hearing date was, last September.
September 19th.
I think we have until December 19th.
So, yeah, we're done.
But
Anyway,
I'd
We
rather-
close the meeting the 19th.
but it doesn't matter if it's closed or not. I mean, it's closed, but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
that doesn't preclude us from using the entire 90 days to act.
I'll tell you
No,
what,
that's fine.
let's do this. Accept their letter to continue,
Mhm.
okay? the
Even though I
first
don't
part.
think we need it, because I think we have
Well,
until
let's do it anyway.
December 19th anyway, but let's do it, yeah.
Accept the letter and make a request to Copeland and Page for a clarification.
When it seems,
And whether we can reopen the hearing.
yeah.
That'll agree, that I
Yeah.
agree to. If there's a way we can reopen it, just making a motion to reopen the hearing.
Mhm.
I'm thinking if everyone's, I mean,
It's
If
not-
everyone
I don't think it's
is-
gonna get challenged, cause
I know,
everybody's.
if everyone
voting on the
agrees
same
to it,
page.
I don't think
Right.
it's an issue. If they say, no, you can't do that, and we do it, that might be an issue. But I don't have a problem with that question. I think in terms of the timing, I'm right, but I don't have, I can't find an answer to how to
There's-
open a meeting, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
reopen a meeting.
But I mean, even if we had to wait until next meeting, the 17th, what is it, it's the 17th, right?
17.
Is, in my math, within the 90 days, just within the 90
Yeah.
days.
I
But
don't know. I
still
came
within.
up with
I'd hate to fail on
2
that.
days before.
I
did
hate
you?
to-
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
still,
this is
I
like the
hate to fail
77th
on that
day.
because they would jump right ahead and say, you missed it. We got the approval, and
No,
we went ahead.
absolutely,
I
absolutely.
still
From the
think
And I
it's,
don't wanna
hearing
take the
open.
chance,
but I
because he
also,
would take us to court.
yeah, but I also think it's from the last meeting, but
So we'll
schedule it for 12/17 at 6:30?
No, I think we should schedule it for the next meeting. That's what I think.
10/17,
10/17?
that's the next meeting.
Well, except we want to accept the letter, don't we?
We accept the letter, then we schedule it under old business for October 17th.
Okay, that's Carol's motion.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that is.
For 7 p.m.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Here none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
So the motion to accept the letter
Accept the letter.
and to schedule
For old business.
On the,
on the
for
10th, yeah.
under old business,
Yeah.
on October,
On
17th.
17th.
Okay.
Okay. And separately, request Copeland and Page
Right.
to see what the
Clarification.
procedure is to reopen, if it's possible, reopen
to reopen the meeting,
A closed hearing.
yeah.
closed public meeting,
Yes, remember, it's a site plan, so it's really just a public informational meeting.
right? Okay.
Okay. New business. Oh, no, wait a minute.
You
No.
still got
I jumped all over four.
Brooks Pond.
Okay. 4.2, preliminary subdivision for Brooks Pond Village.
Can we accept all, if we want to vote, can we vote on all of them?
No, we have to take them separately.
Okay.
Yeah, because they have separate conditions.
And they have,
Okay.
because they have, and the conditions, the department head conditions.
Yeah.
I don't think we had anything special that we,
No.
I feel
No, I
like
think that
the-
really we're relying on the building inspector to make sure that the stuff gets cleaned up, which has
And
really
that-
been one of the major
that's been the
issues.
major issue all
And
along.
it sounds like
He's doing it.
there's
He's
an
putting some
opportunity
pressure
here
on
for
it.
this finally to get
Yeah.
made right,
Yeah.
so.
Well, he sold the trailer, so he's got a,
Yeah.
That's a good start. It's a good start.
that's a good start.
Can I go over what we talked about at the meeting today, because there
Yeah.
might be a couple more conditions, just relating to that. So we met with Mark Primarini and, John Roseberry from the DPW. Bill will need and Mr. Bevenzi will need a notice of intent from the Conservation Commission, and they will be, applying for that shortly. I'm not sure exactly when, but that is on deck. So they would get a new order of conditions, and that would be, conditional on them meeting that order of conditions.
The Conservation
imagine.
Commission, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Let's see. Bill described this, the right to pass and repass, should be written into the deed, or deeds for the properties, as opposed to, Mark wanted to maybe see the easements shown on the plan.
Mhm.
If site plans could be approved with the condition of approval of the definitive subdivision plan, because that would still have to be forthcoming. Let's see, removing the debris before building permits, would be pulled because he has several buildings that are already approved but haven't been built yet. So he would go ahead and make sure that he's agreed with the building inspector before getting additional building permits for those buildings. We could add a condition stipulating that the road would remain private and unaccepted. Now, he's gonna come back with the subdivision plan, and he's gonna have a number of waivers related to the construction of the road. But there's apparently no intention to ask for the road to be accepted as a public way. So we could write it into the conditions.
Mhm.
Okay. And approval of the site plans could be approved pending review of the updated plans by the DPW. Bill's gonna make a number of changes to the plan and would review it with the DPW and have them okay it before it would become official.
Okay. And those are all the conditions.
Those were conditions that you can consider
Right.
putting on them at this time.
Well, that sounds like, yeah, that's the stuff that I,
Okay. The other thing I don't want to lose sight of is there are conditions from the original approval and modification that I'm not sure if they've been,
did hear too?
adhered to or completed. Unfortunately, I thought I had a copy of them with me. I don't, and I should have put them in the packets maybe. But we need to make sure that they've either been
Well, what we
completed
do is
or
that
that they're not forgotten in the.
I think in that regard, would just add to what you've got there,
Mhm.
the condition that the original conditions still apply.
The original conditions that haven't been modified still apply.
That's right.
Are there any deal breakers in those conditions from what is being proposed right now?
No,
I don't think
I don't
so.
know.
no. Because he applied, but most of it, the primary thing was, and he was right, was with the sewer line,
Right. I
Up
remember
on
all
Debbie
of that
Drive,
before-
okay.
it was before we
and
got
that
here,
was one
but-
of the conditions all along. And he's absolutely right, is that there's been a big go-around back and forth with the sewer pump station, because the city has no way to control the sewage flow of the houses from Debbie Drive into his system. And how do you charge that? So I'm not sure how they work that around, because it gets, so that was a big issue. But what happened was, as he said, was correct. There were a number of people that wanted to sell their homes up there, and they couldn't. So therefore, he did capitulate, and he did go off and say, and he did have to blow, to put in the sewer line. The original plan was that we'd put in the pump station, get the pump station accepted by the city, then put the sewer lines in, or hook them up. Okay, and then you could take, and it was going into, but that still hasn't been transferred, because there was some issue with the pumps that he put in and whether the city want to accept those pumps. So,
I just want to make sure there's nothing contrary.
but that's
Yeah.
the
One set
only,
of
but
conditions
that
and
was
one set
all
of
part of
conditions.
the original conditions, was the sewer line, hooking up with Debbie Drive, and the rest. The rest of it was, that was the primary one. We didn't have the cleanup problems in those, because we didn't. There was some wetlands issues that they've been taken care of, and it was the ponds that he put in, detention ponds and all that.
I do remember specifically there was two about some amounts of money, 100,000. They would pay $100,000 towards the improvements on Central Street,
Right,
which I believe he satisfied
that was
with
all
the
done, that was all
sidewalks.
satisfied. He did all the sidewalks
Yeah,
and all the upgrades to Central Street, so that was all done
yeah.
up front. Like you said, he put up the money up front for the lights at Willard Street.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then there was.
I thought the other guy said also,
Mm.
but nobody ever got back to us and said that that had fallen through.
I think there's been a genuine effort here with these to make this right. You know, with an understanding that it dragged on a little much longer than anybody hoped or thought it would, but I think
Yeah.
these are bringing it very close. I
Okay.
concur.
So, we have to take those separately. So we got the, for the site plan, preliminary subdivision for Brooks Pond Village, and these were with the conditions as read by Kristen?
Okay, so
Okay.
that would be the ones
And paths.
from the meeting,
Right,
in addition to the ones with the original conditions.
right.
Right.
So forgive me, how did you word that about the original conditions that were going?
And just to make sure that, and that the original conditions still apply.
Still apply.
Just that, there's no, these aren't superseding conditions.
Okay, and then just for the record, I'm gonna say which ones. They'll need a notice of intent for the new section.
Right,
The right to pass and repass should be written into the deed.
right.
Site plans approved upon conditional on the approval of the subdivision plan,
Right.
definitive subdivision plan. The road will remain private and unaccepted, or private, remain a private way and will not be
Right.
petition for acceptance.
Remains a private way, period. You don't have to,
Okay.
Do we have to say anything special in regards to that? Because don't we have a caveat that we have to have, even though it's already built and everything else, but in regards to them applying for the street to be accepted, or is that only to release a bond?
no,
bid,
we'll
something?
probably, when we get into the definitive, that'll have to be a waiver
Okay. I just
on the
wanna make
site
sure.
plan,
Mhm.
because that, the site plan is, for the final site plan, that we require them to apply to the city council. But this is, and normally that wouldn't happen because it's all interior and there is no request for approval to the city council. But where this road is gonna become a public way, okay, then not a public road, a public way, then we'll have to waiver that because that there's no requirement to apply to the city council.
Yeah, I don't
But we
think
can
it's a
waiver that
requirement.
because that's in our subdivision regulations
Right.
and not ordinances.
Okay.
Okay?
And approval of site plans pending review of updated plans by DPW.
Right.
Okay.
Get
So
those
those are
condi-
my 5 plus the original conditions.
Right.
Still apply.
Okay, motion by Fred, seconded by
Second.
Pat. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both say no. Motion carries. Site plan for Brooks Pond Village, Lot 2E-1.
I make a motion to approve with the conditions from the department heads and any others that, from the planning director, and she can read them. I'm assuming they're the same.
Right.
Yeah, I would just have the same
They are the
conditions
same.
for
Yeah.
all 4. Okay.
Yeah.
Approvals.
Second.
Motion made by Carol, seconded by Mike. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both say no. Motion carries. Site plan for Brooks Pond Village, Lot 4D-1.
Make a motion to approve with,
Conditions.
with conditions.
The same conditions?
So, yeah.
Okay.
Made, motion by Mike, seconded by Fred. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both say no. Motion carries. Site plan for Brooks Pond Village, Lot 4E-1.
Make a motion to approve with conditions from department heads and the director.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both say no. Motion carries. Okay. New business, site plan for 200-210 New Lancaster Road, bank and drive-through coffee shop. I think it's a nice little,
Yeah, I like
Looks
it.
good. Time something
Yeah.
goes in there, so
Yeah.
that should round it off and make it look nice.
I did have there was a question by Councilor Lanciani concerning the sidewalk on Old Mill. He thought that was supposed to have been continued to,
The Walmart.
from the back of Walmart to the apartments back, to the condos back there. But the drawings that we could find today show the sidewalk stopping at their property. So there may have been a request by somebody, but it doesn't appear on the drawings, so
Never made it official.
it was never made official, so I don't know, but that's from here or there, that doesn't has nothing to do with this. So do I have a motion? We don't have any, do we have any conditions from department heads? It was pretty clean.
Yeah, it was pretty clean.
Something
Very
about the
few.
water, right? The water main.
The water main
More, yeah.
Yeah,
from the DPW. This is what's-
it doesn't require parking, I mean, it doesn't require traffic, we've done all of that, that's all, we're well within the numbers that were originally planned, so.
Handicap parking is accessible, the parking spaces are fine. Health had nothing, no comments for fire. Conservation
They still had to go for the
stormwater
water
permit,
quality.
general, construction general permit would be needed. And
For
he
water
did say
quality.
Yeah.
For water quality and.
But that's standard conservation commission requirement.
Yeah.
So I
So
make
I
a
would put
motion
that
to
in there.
approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Do we have any?
With the department head comments?
With the
Yeah,
department
okay,
head
yeah.
comments. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Communications, letter from Paul DiGeronimo. Read 2 lots on Sudtel Road currently zoned commercial.
Should I describe this a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
The copy of the letter is really an email. Let's see. Where's my copy? Paul has 2 lots that have frontage on Sawtell. One is next to Mr. Albert, and the other is across the street from that. They're both zoned commercial. He's thinking he would like to just do residential development there, and that is what he's saying is the agreement of the abutters, the neighbors. It's mostly residential as you go up Sawtell. He wanted to discuss his options, one being of trying to rezone those parcels or that area, or 2, there's actually there's an allowance in the general, let's see, general use regulations. If one undeveloped lot is in a zoning district in which a desired but non-permitted residential use is sought, and the lot is bordered by other lots which are predominantly non-conforming residential uses, by special permit or the planning board, a similar non-conforming residential use of that lot may be permitted, consistent with the zoning requirements for the residential structures in the closest neighboring residential zoning district. They are right abutting at the RB or RA zone?
RB.
RB zone. So they could, as long as their lots meet all the requirements of the RB zone, they can, by special permit, apply for, to have residential use in the commercial zone. You did this similar recently on Grafton and Westland Street, which is also zoned commercial, and they applied for a special permit to build residence on that lot.
It's up off of Route 12 on the back.
Yeah, no, my question is, what didn't we have a thing to do with these lots before? And
Well, he wanted, yeah, he
for that
wanted,
to be something else in the first
he
place,
wanted to put in commercial buildings,
Yeah.
which you
and-
could do.
which he
Right
could,
now.
well, it's commercial, yeah, right.
Yeah.
But now
I
he's,
just want to make sure I wasn't misremembering.
yeah, no, you're right.
No, you're-
But now we find out there's the market
Yeah.
has turned for residential.
Right.
He's doing real well with the residential properties he's got there.
Yeah. And
They're selling them as fast as he can build them,
Yeah.
and people are putting deposits on them before they build them.
the
So,
abutters
Well, if
want
Mr. Albert's not
residential.
here, I'm sure that he's probably in agreement.
Yes.
With whatever.
Yeah,
Well,
and-
I think,
suggested.
We have to schedule this.
we wanted to schedule, to have Paul come in for an open public
Right.
meeting. To talk about this, Mr. Albert will be there at that time, but he stopped in today.
But primarily it's a scheduling thing,
Yes.
yeah. But we wanted to discuss it up front because,
Yeah.
like you said, we had
Yeah.
had prior discussions.
Right.
And it was quite contentious when we was trying to put in commercial sites in there, and
Yeah.
now we're going back again.
Right.
But I think this is a better plan he has.
No, I agree, I agree.
So do we want to put this in November or? Because we got a ton of stuff on.
Well, what are we putting it under? Has he
Special permit?
Well, he's
submitted an
just-
application yet?
No, he's got
not yet.
He's got to submit his application.
Okay,
I think
so-
he wanted to come in and discuss it with the board. He's talked with me, he's talked with,
Yeah,
and so this would, in a public meeting, he discusses options. Because trying to have the area rezoned is also an option for him. Pros and cons.
Sure.
yeah. I mean, we can you can send a letter back to him, have him come in for a few minutes at the next meeting.
Okay.
You know, and then he can move along, and then he can apply for his special permit.
Yeah, I agree. I like that.
Because I would like him to describe himself. He had some ideas of how to, one of the lots has to be split, an A&R or something. We'd maybe like to
He was
have
gonna
him
put up
describe that.
condos or something?
What's that?
Remember he was gonna put condos on.
Well, he's building the condos on the back, and they
Yeah.
turned out to be mostly apartments,
Yeah,
but some of those
Then
apartments
he-
are now being sold as condos, so.
but
Yeah.
then there was land over to the left of Mr.
Right.
Albert that he was gonna build condos too.
Yeah.
Right.
Or
That's-
apartments.
That's when
I-
Mr. T-Bear was in here
Yeah,
discussing.
Okay, that doesn't require a vote.
okay.
Okay, so we'll schedule that for, should
The
I put it
next
in for
meeting,
time? Because we
invite
have
him
to,
to come in,
for
right?
a public meeting, so, what time?
Okay.
I have 6:50, so.
Whatever you got, whatever the next
The
meeting,
next one, okay.
whatever the time is comes up.
But
So that would be 6:50.
are you talking about Paul?
Yeah.
Why don't we just put him under, I mean,
Communications.
why don't we just put him under the regular meeting? He's just
Yeah,
coming in to talk to us about his plan
Yeah,
informally.
mm-hmm,
Well, I think we should just put him under communications and tell him to come at 7:30 or something.
yeah, we could do that.
7:30?
Right, I mean, it doesn't make any sense to put him under what we usually put under for our
Yeah,
hearings.
right.
Unless
Does
he's
he
submitted.
need a public information meeting?
No,
No, if he's
Not
just
good.
come,
He's
if he,
just talking
he just
about
comes
if
for
he
general
wants to come in
information.
just to talk to, tell us what his plan is, I think it should just go under communications.
Okay.
If he's, in the meantime, going to submit a site plan, I don't have an issue with you just scheduling it for a public, for a special permit. I don't have an issue with you just scheduling it for a public hearing without it coming under plan submitted.
We could just have him give his application for the special permit.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, why don't you have him
he can do
that?
either way.
I
Let
think I
him
just
make the
described
choice.
what he wants to do,
Yeah, so
so,
why
Well,
don't
let
you
him
just
decide
tell
what
him
he
to do,
wants to
tell
do.
him that we talked about it and have him submit it and,
okay. But if he wants to come in
He's
and
more than
talk
welcome.
about it.
yeah.
He seems to want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, he can
Fine.
submit the
Make sure
application
it's doing
and,
the right thing, or,
Yeah.
you know, that
Well, we
he wasn't aware of this, in the zoning. But if he
Okay.
wants to just apply for the special
Okay.
permit and then, okay.
I mean, then he's telling us
Alright.
the same thing twice.
Yep.
Okay, 6.2,
Then-
letter from Ben Axelman, manager of Nexamp. Question on condition number 8.
This has to do with the
And
solar.
special
panels.
permit
Yeah, he's
approval
buying
for a
it.
solar project at 982 Pleasant Street rear. That's the,
They're going through with this, huh?
yeah,
Wow, I'm
This is-
surprised.
This is a company buying from the other place.
yeah, and what the question is the, in the conditions, it's 8 feet high from the front setback. Well, from the front yard.
Yeah.
But we have to determine what the front yard is.
Okay.
Okay, and we didn't, in our conditions that we put it on there, we didn't determine the front yard, so that's the question he's got. So he's gonna come in with his drawings, and at that point, we'll determine what the front yard is, and then they can go on from there, engineering from there for the, so they need that reference point.
When you
Right.
mean,
And we have to give the reference point to them.
when you mean front yard, is that front yard?
Well, we gotta
across the
determine
street?
what it is. It's a reference point, is it gonna be off the street, or is it the backyard of the houses?
Well,
Is their front yard?
originally
okay.
it was-
Well, yeah, we would be going from the backyard of the house, is the
Yeah.
question is which
Well,
house.
probably, but, you know, let's
Because
see
that
what they
was the
come with, you
flat
know,
land.
yeah.
He quite detailed letter here explaining, a couple of the perspectives. If
Why don't you read the letter then? Or is it really long?
It's really long.
Yeah. it's
Oh, okay,
long.
forget
But,
it.
you know,
We-
you read
we-
I didn't
the
read it.
relevant part.
Yeah, it's long.
Well, okay, let me read, I'll just jump to this part. My question is, first of all, the condition reads, the maximum height of the ground-mounted solar array support structures and any local berm below the structure shall be limited to 8 feet above the mean natural grade on the street side, and if not abutting a street, from the mean natural ground level along the system's designated front yard, as said front yard is designated by the planning board. That's the condition. He says, my question is, how should the mean natural ground level be determined for the purpose of determining the maximum height of the panels, and which frontage should be used? This is an important consideration, as solar panels are typically about 8 feet in height, and the northern edge of the proposed project is on land with an elevation of 641 feet. If the frontage along Pleasant Street is used, we would have plenty of height to work with. But if the frontage along the northern property is used, which I believe abuts the neighboring subdivision, this could require substantial cuts into the hill of 50 to 20 feet, which would require blasting away the hill until we can conform with the height restrictions. I would like to request that the issue be addressed, so setting with the front yard, designating the front yard.
I was under the impression that the spirit of that condition was to just make sure that these things weren't towering any higher than 8 feet from the ground that they were mounted to.
Yeah,
Not, so if it's 641 feet of elevation in spot X, then it can't be any higher than 649 feet.
well,
And if it's 622 feet in point Y,
yeah,
then it can't be any higher than 630 feet.
yeah.
And
I
I
don't
did
think that we're gonna pick one spot, it's gonna be one
Well, it
flat,
might, if
like
giant
the mean.
see, if
monster
you get the
thing
front
of the
yard
same
on the
thing.
other side, he might be picking up the front yard on, I forget the name of
Uh,
I
the
thought we
street.
were gonna have a fence with some buffering,
Yeah.
some different trees we
Yeah,
discussed
yeah.
at
Yeah.
length, if I recall.
Let's let him
The
come in and
fence was
discuss it,
the
and
point of
It'd be
contention.
offside
and we'll come up with
from
a right answer.
I did talk to the DPW about this as well, and I have their perspective,
So
so I
why-
can bring that
Okay,
to. It's just the frontage is so long that you have to pick what, you know.
Yeah,
you're
I
gonna pick
thought,
the
I
maximum,
didn't
you're
realize it was
pick a
gonna be
mean.
uniform and
No,
I
but
thought it was using some of the natural topography to.
yeah,
so-
but they have to pick a baseline or a point to
Sure.
go from. So did they pick the highest, or did they pick a
Should
mean?
we put this to November? Cause I don't know what you got for October
I
17th.
think you're right.
Currently,
You know what I mean? And then what? So we,
Summer Street.
it's like a inn
And then
to
they-
have
November,
16 feet high somewhere,
do we have, okay, we should
We have
have.
nothing currently for November
you
7th.
know what I mean?
It's great big.
When's election day? Election's the 8th, okay.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah,
I guess that is coming soon, huh? Should be interesting.
the 7th should be, okay, 7th should be okay.
November
We'll
7th?
put them at 6:30?
Yeah.
Okay, and this is a public information meeting?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
9.
So,
Okay, next one, okay. Solar ordinance, city petition. We got 7 pages here, folks.
Can you just give us homework?
Yes. But I really,
Send us over. The week after.
extended homework. Please, okay,
You
you've
did
got
the
it.
homework?
We've spent, Chris and I have spent a lot of time on this. We've interviewed the different businesses and all the rest of that. And this is an outgrowth of what we just discussed,
Yeah.
okay? And we've gotten, well, the original information we had, and then Kristen picked up some more additional information from Palmer and some other towns that had some other unique things. Plus, we had some, we put in all the definitions and put it in, and there's also gonna be another petition to the city council to change their definition of solar, not solar energy,
Renewable
but
energy.
renewable energy.
Right, because it currently includes
But
wind
I-
and solar, but now we'll
Yeah.
have 2 separate.
But I'd like
ordinances
to-
for those.
Take a look, the action that we'll be taking on this is, we'll get this, and please look at it. I'd like to have you guys look at it and act on it at the next meeting.
okay.
And then what we'll do is, we'll submit this to the city council as a petition from the planning board. At that point, the city council will get it, they'll take and submit it to the legal affairs, they'll schedule a public hearing, and they'll return it to us for our further comments. At that point, I've already talked to Claire and some of the city councilors. We'll be sitting down, myself or anybody else that wants to. We'll set up one night a separate meeting, a joint meeting, to go over it,
Okay.
okay? So that's in the future, I don't know when that's gonna be, but, you know, and then, so that the city council will have the input, what we're trying to get to and what we're trying to cover. And because we're covering residential, we're covering A's and B's and C's, in different areas, industrial, and that's why there's so many pages,
I
because,
thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Yeah.
know what's not in
I
there when you
read
don't
it
know
and
what's not
I
in
thought
there.
it was very well done.
well, and, so Christian's done a lot of work here.
Well, the more you dig into it, there's a lot of.
reflects that.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different iterations. There's, we just figured this out the other day, this idea of on-site versus off-site. So on-site is really when you're generating electricity
Right.
for the primary use on-site. Off-site would be you're selling it for profit, like a solar farm. So
Yeah.
that,
That Pleasant.
you know, so
So,
defining that.
so
is-
there are
is
different
key.
variables
Right.
that, whether you have on-site, off-site, so we had to address those things.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of thought put into it. I don't think, in talking to city council, I doubt that they'll do much with it, okay? They might tweak it here or there, and, as they usually do, and they'll have their public hearing, and then it'll become, an ordinance. But I'd like to move forward, I'd like to clean this one up before I make my sojourn.
All right, October
There's a
17th.
long song before you go south.
Okay,
Okay, so I think that's all we gotta cover with that. I was threatening to read the whole thing tonight, but I won't do that.
That's good.
no, you can blame
No,
Peter
thank-
Bavenzi for that.
Yeah.
Took up your half hour.
Yeah.
Amend section 62.3.7 of the zoning ordinance, remove the words "and always within the right-of-way," city council petition.
This is just cleaning up, we made the change to the subdivision regulation regarding street trees, sidewalks, and whether it's in the right of way or on the private land. So this would address just one instance where it does appear in the zoning ordinance that says always within the right of way. So I thought just by taking that line out meets the goal and is consistent with what we've approved for the subdivision
Right,
regulations.
so
I'll make a motion to accept that.
I think we need to
We have to have
schedule
a
a public
public
hearing.
Oh,
Yeah,
you did?
yeah.
Okay.
yep, city council petition.
Okay.
So would this be similar to with the solar where we're petitioning the city council, they're gonna.
No, wait a
take
minute,
it-
oh no, we're submitting this to the city council.
Yeah,
Oh,
this is
okay,
our
so-
letter, our petition.
Yeah,
This is our petition.
So they
So a
would give it
motion
back
is in
to us.
order to, we take and we send this
To the city
Petition.
council.
to the city council.
I'll make that
and
motion.
don't we, can't we schedule our own hearing?
No, not until they send it back to us.
Okay.
So that would be,
'Cause we don't know when they're gonna send it back.
Yeah. So make a motion to send it to the city council.
Right.
Patrick.
Motion made and seconded to send the petition to amend section 62.3.7, the zoning, to remove the words "and always within the right of way." Any discussion? Here and now, a call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Okay, yeah, that's right, because they both are petitions, yeah,
Right.
okay.
but for
Director's
that one I
report?
can, no.
No executive session?
Make a motion.
Sal, where are you?
Make a motion to close the meeting.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
The old man can say yes to leave.
Shape.